So I hope everyone is okay with that. And I'm also going to be setting up Insta at the same time. So a little bit of tech just for a couple of minutes. Let's just get everybody in. I'm just going to mute my mic because I'm just going to be on Insta. So just don't worry if you can't hear me. I fiddle with my technology, so I'm back here. Yes, I'm just was on Insta, so that's why I was muted. Hello, everyone on Zoom. Right, so I'm just going to be letting a few more people in. All right, and then I might have to just let people in as we're coming along tonight, because we had so many people who came last night live, which is amazing. All right, thank you for your patience, guys. Okay, so whilst we're waiting, because it's 3 minutes past, just to do a few ground rules, just to let you know that this is day 2 of Prepare to Teach Parents and Babies in Nature. I am very much an intuitive teacher, so I don't use PowerPoints or anything like that. So I just talk from the heart based on 20 years of shared experience and lived experience of working with parents and babies, with nature and with nurture, and now with nature as well. This is being recorded if you are on Zoom. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can turn your camera off, and I'm going to take any questions at the end of this training. There'll be 15 minutes at the end, but I will kind of be checking a little bit if I'm asking any questions as well as we go through. So just a little recap. This is a 3-day training, Prepare to Teach Parents and Babies in Nature. Yesterday, we looked at why. Why is it so important to be holding space for parents and babies in nature? What are the benefits for parents and carers? What are the benefits for babies? We looked at the science, we looked at the intuitive knowledge, and I covered a little bit about what's covered in Tree Babies. So tonight on session 2, we're going to be looking at what you actually might do in a class that is aimed for holding space for parents and babies in nature. And so I'm going to run through a few ideas with you. If you remember, this is a accredited, well, it's a certificated course by Blossom and Berry. So if you look in your booklet and answer the questions on day 1, day 2, day 3, send them to me. I will mark them, and you'll get a certificate for coming along to the training. But in essence, this is to just give you a little window into the type of things that we do here at Blossom and Berry through Tree Babies and our Wild Wellbeing courses, which include Nature Natal, Tree Babies, and Barefoot Beach Babies, which is about bringing parents and babies to the sea. So tonight we are going to be talking about what might be in a typical class that you're holding for parents and babies in nature. So let me just start off by just asking those people on Zoom who is currently teaching parents and babies in nature, or if you're on Insta, you can give me some love if that's you. So just put a yes or a no in the box if you're doing that already. Let's have a little look. Not yet, no. Hopefully. Mostly toddlers, not yet. I'm hoping to with my nursery. Okay, so a little bit of a mix of the two. And traditionally, I suppose, we think about holding classes for children in nature with forest school, maybe after school clubs. But what the aim of Tree Babies is to bring the power of nature in the first 1001 days of life, because we know, as I covered yesterday, that this is the critical window for social emotional health. It's also the time when babies are most delicate, their nervous systems are developing. We don't want to overwhelm or overstimulate. We actually want to help babies feel more present and connected and centered and grounded, because they've just arrived here on this planet, and quite frankly, it's pretty overwhelming and overstimulating as an adult with a fully activated nervous system, let alone a baby. So by bringing babies into nature at the beginning, we can provide these very calming and soothing, sensory integrating environments rather than overstimulating. And obviously we talked about parents as well, helping them with their mental health and well-being. So what we do in Tree Babies classes is basically about connection-based practices. And also, so when I talk about connection, I'm always talking about connection to yourself first. You always have to have connection to yourself first, because then you can understand yourself, you can regulate yourself, you can integrate all of your feelings and emotions. So knowing yourself, connection to yourself comes number one. So there'll be something in the class that helps parents connect to themselves. And we mainly do that through breath work and some somatic movements. Then there's going to be connection to baby. So that largely comes from the fact that the classes have baby wearing as the main way of babies coming to classes. So babies are always connected skin to skin. And, you know, parent carer's body is a natural regulator. So babies feel very connected. And it could be that that is the time in baby's day where they actually feel that the most physically connected, because otherwise they might be in a car seat or they might be on the floor. And, you know, we're busy as parents and carers flying around a little bit like birds. We make these nests for our babies. And then we fly around doing all of our jobs. And then we come back when we hear our babies cry. Whereas actually babies are mammals. They're not birds. They don't want to nest. They want to be carried by us all the time. That's how they are hardwired to know that they're safe, that they're protected, and that they can relax. So that really provides the connection, the fact that babies are there with us. And then connection to each other in terms of community. Those practices we do are well, I love to do nature mandalas, so I don't know if anyone's familiar with those. If you have a look on the Tree Babies page on the website and also on our Instagram, you will see some examples of nature mandalas that have been made together as a group, and they are the most beautiful things to create, and I'll talk about that and why in a moment. But that's a lovely thing to sort of bring everyone together, so everyone adds their little bit into something that is beautiful. So it's real co-creation. And then lastly, the connecting practice is to nature itself, and we do that with largely in Tree Babies through a type of forest bathing. So as I said, I haven't invented forest bathing. It's not my idea. It comes from Japan. And, you know, being out in nature, you know, we've been doing it since humans evolved enough to be able to be conscious of themselves. Like we are nature, and we've lived in harmony with nature for many, many years. It's only been in recent years that we've, you know, the last 100, 200 years that we've had this disconnection. So everything we're doing is connected practices. So when you're thinking about holding space for parents and babies in nature, you have complete freedom to choose what you desire. Obviously, the number one thing is to make sure that parents and babies are safe, which we talked about yesterday. We always do, you know, risk assessments to make sure that wherever we're taking babies, they're going to be okay and there's no risks there. We've always got permission from the person where we're going onto the land. We don't just walk onto someone's land or woods and hold these groups without asking first. So we've made sure that we've got a safe environment. You would always explain to parents in advance, you know, what's going to be happening in terms of getting them prepared, because it's quite difficult to get prepared to take a baby out if you're going to, you know, inside, let alone outside. So we would make sure that parents and carers knew, you know, where the location was, where the parking was, asking them to maybe go to the loo, make sure they go to the loo before they come, bringing anything that they need, making sure that they've got the right clothing to be able to come and enjoy the experience to the full. You remember I said there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. And we also said that when you train with tree babies, there's like a pack that goes out in advance. We have a tree babies journal where parents can actually record anything that comes up when they're in nature. They can bring that with them, because we have something called a little still spot, which is part of our little forest bathing practice, where parents can write down any emotions or any things that are coming up. So we give that out as well. We have a meditation, we have a Spotify playlist. So there's a connection being made even before parents come. And again, to be honest, this is the beauty of these classes, is they're about you being authentically expressed. So you can bring all of your creativity in. If you've ever thought to yourself, what would be my perfect experience in nature? This is your opportunity to create it for somebody else. So think about all of those things that you would desire and then create them within your teaching practice. So we make sure that parents are prepared before they've come. And we would also make sure we found out if they've got any additional needs that we need to work with, whether they're physical or whether they're emotional or learning, or all of those different things. So we always make sure we have as much information as we can before. And a lot of my teachers would have a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group where they're keeping in contact with their parents and carers, before, during and after. And that's just part of building community. And I'm very much in favour of doing that as well, because, this is not a transactional experience. This is everything in this is about relationships. So you want those relationships to be solid, authentic and well connected before, during and after. So that's how we'd sort of like frame the class before people are coming along. Obviously, we're going to choose a spot which is as accessible as we can for parents, carers and babies. Largely, it's good to have a wood, because it is tree babies and we do forest bathing. But if you don't have that, some people teach in parks, some people teach where there isn't so many trees. You can adapt it and use the kind of forest bathing part as just a kind of nature connecting practice instead. So in a typical class for tree babies, what would happen is people would arrive, and then we would we always stand in circles, so everyone's equal, everyone can see each other, everyone has an equal place. Often the teacher or the guide will have like a sharing stick, so just pick up a stick from the ground and you use that's the talking stick. So when you've got that, it means it's your turn to talk, and then you pass it on to the next person. And you start by just introducing yourself and explaining what's going to be happening in this particular tree baby session. Obviously in the bigger one, you're going to explain, if you're doing a course, the journey you're going to be going on. And then a little bit about yourself, a little bit about ground rules, that everyone's free to be fully expressed. Everything's confidential whilst they're in the group. This is a place for co-creation. This is a place for being rather than doing. So this is our tree babies mantra here. So I've got mine on a beautiful piece of wood, and that is in the middle of the circle. And I could talk again for hours on how you can create beautiful aesthetics for your class as well. But this is the Tree Babies mantra. So it says, this is what we would say at the beginning of every class. Some of my teachers also bring in poems and start the class with a poem. So this says, "You are welcome here. This is a class for being rather than doing, heart over head, experience over expectation. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to achieve. There is nothing to fix. There is everything in the moment, and the moment is now." So that is the Tree Babies mantra. I can see a little baby there, like flopping up and down, waving at me. So yeah, so that's the Tree Babies mantra. And that is really the essence of Tree Babies. So we start the class like that. And also in the manual that we have, there's lots and lots of different poems that you can use to start the class. So already, I think you can probably feel it's got a different vibration to most parent and baby classes, where you just sort of come in, maybe someone says hi, and there's not that much time for talking or chatting or just being or feeling, or just being exactly as you want in the moment. So there's time for that, and then basically the sharing stick would go around and each person would say how they're feeling. I like to invite people to share one word about how they're feeling tonight. In fact, let's do that now as we are here. Put one word in the chat box about how you're feeling tonight, because that helps me assess what is the vibe in the group. So we've got excited, inspired, excited. Oh, I'm loving this. Excited, inspired, full. Oh, lovely. That's a great one. I like that. Full. That's like whole. Enthusiastic. Perfect. So you can get eager, relax, so you can get a vibe for how everyone's feeling, and then that's going to help you as a guide to just direct the group and the journey of the group for that particular session. So that's a really easy one to start off with. Sometimes people want to talk for a little bit longer, and that's okay. So after we've done that, we then look at so that's a connecting practice to the group. Agreed? So that's connecting outward. Then we're going to connect inward. So the two main things that we then do is some simple breath work, which brings us into our hearts, into our bodies. The breath is the most powerful way to activate what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, which allows you to relax. So using the breath to do that initially. It's not complicated. We don't have to be a breathwork teacher. It's very, very simple. We just breathe. We forget that is the portal to peace, is breath. So we do some breath work to begin with. And then we do some somatic movements. So we would do something like a little bit of shaking. Shaking is fantastic for getting rid of any stress in the body. Just really literally kind of shaking it out like animals do. If you see animals and they're a bit stressed or they've had a fright, they have a good old shake. So shaking is super easy to do with babies. The other thing we do is something called a butterfly hug, which is like a tapping exercise that again calms the nervous system, brings you into your body. These are things as well that parents and carers can take home with them and do in the week in between, so they don't have to just wait for a session. These are really powerful somatic exercises they can do elsewhere. We also do a range of other different ones too. So, you can do arms up or swing into the side or whatever you want. So those practices about the connecting inward and the centering and the grounding, so that parents become present. So then the next part of a tree baby session is to become present with what is. So we use some very simple mindfulness techniques. And again, you don't have to be a mindfulness teacher to do this, because it's just all about helping people connect to the present moment through their senses. So asking people to, open their eyes and really observe what is around them, or then shutting their eyes and really tuning into what they can hear. You can ask them to bend down, scoop something off the floor, rub the soil in their hands, the leaves in their hands, smell whatever it is. Depending on what time of year it is, you might also be able to taste if you've got like blackberries or things that have been foraged. So we're bringing all of the senses into the moment and really helping to get grounded into the now, because the now is where the peace is. Because the parent and carer is not worrying about what's happened before. They're not worrying about what's going to be happening later. They are simply centered in the moment. And that is the only place truly where there's peace, because that's where we can just rest and open to receive the beauty of life and everything that is there, whether it's nature or at any time when you're at home. It's the most powerful portal into the present moment is through mindfulness and presence. So we do something of that description to just center and ground. So again, I'm sure you can imagine this is very different to a regular parent and baby class. And being in nature means that it's super, super powerful, because there's so much in nature that is going to be available for us from a sensory point of view to connect into. Because when we open our eyes in nature, there's always going to be something beautiful there. There's always going to be something wonderful to listen to and to smell and to feel. And because we're naturally part of nature, it's like coming home to ourselves. It's like experiencing more of us. But nature just exists in peace and harmony. And we as humans, like, make things super complicated all the time by being in our heads and trying to get somewhere and all of the rest of the stuff that we do. So it's very, very powerful to just be present. And so that's a really important part. So that's like the forerunner to then parents and babies will go off for 20 minutes to alone. So they will wander off and go with their babies to practice some forest bathing. So on the Tree Babies course, we explain to you about the history of forest bathing. There's lots of books you can read on it. As I said, it's a practice that originates in Japan. It started in the 1980s. It's now, globally practice. You can become a full forest bathing practitioner if you desire, but in terms of what we're doing, we're not instructing people on sort of the practice of it. We're just inviting parents and babies and carers to go out into nature and to enjoy just the presence of being in the wood, in the forest, with trees, with nature, whatever it is. So we put a little timer on. Parents and carers go off on their own, and this is the part where they are connecting with their baby and they're connecting with nature. So try to have phones off unless people don't know where they're going or they're nervous and they want to keep their phones with us. Definitely no like social or pictures or things like that. It's just literally 20 minutes of your day that is just about centering yourself with your baby and being in nature. And just having a little bit of an explore. And, in the course we talk about, why things like hugging trees and placing your hands on trees is so powerful. We look at all the science. Like I said, there's certain oils that are produced that are in the atmosphere, in woods, that are seeped into our skin through our breath. And they can really help to regulate our nervous system, boost our immune system, even protect us from things like developing cancer. So it's very, very powerful. When the parent and care and baby has had enough of the kind of wandering, then there's a certain section that we call the still spot, which is a 5-minute integration where parent and baby would sit down if it's nice or find some shelter, and they would then integrate anything that's coming up, any feelings, any emotions, and that's where they can journal if they want to. So they have that section, and then after that they're going to come back. And then we do a creative activity. So for me, I absolutely love, as I said, nature mandalas. So if you've never done a nature mandala before, it involves, like, the easiest way to do it is that you ask the parents and carers to go off and find things that they find beautiful in the forest that's naturally fallen. And then you bring it back and you create a mandala. So you start with a central piece. I don't know if I've got anything here that I would use. I normally take something with me, but it's not quite here. Well, it could be anything. Like, for example, you could use something like this as a centerpiece. So I've got a big crystal that I put in the middle, and then you build up around it. So you have a little circle, say, of pine cones. The next circle is of leaves. The next circle is of white stones. The next circle is of black stones, and it just goes on and on and on. And the great thing about it is that it's leave no trace. So it's like you find first of all, the foraging for it in the first place is really good for mindfulness, because you're focusing. For example, you could say, okay, you guys, you go look for white stones, you guys, you go look for feathers, you guys go and look for pine cones. So you're focusing people's attention, and that in itself is mindfulness, and can really stop you from thinking, because you're just focusing on the moment. Because you're focusing on enjoying finding the things. And then when you bring it back and you build it up together, it's beautiful. Everyone adds to it, so it's made together. And then the great thing about it is that you just leave it exactly as it is, and then animals or the elements will just naturally reclaim it, and it just disappears. And that is a really beautiful lesson about the impermanence of everything. So even if you created the most beautiful mandala, it's going to still eventually go back into the earth and be redistributed just like we are with our lives, really. So it's a beautiful kind of metaphor for parenting as well, in that this too shall pass. It's very much about learning from nature. Like, let's look at what happens in nature. There's birth, there's death, there's cycles, there's seasons, there's sun, there's rain, there's wind, there's all of the things, there's all of the elements, and it's all just part of the beautiful experience of being alive. And that's the same with parenting. There's going to be sleepless nights, there's going to be first smiles, there's going to be illness, there's going to be giggles, all the different things. So it's a really great kind of, it's a really great way for parents to be embodied in that presence in parenting, rather than learning about it in a book and thinking, oh, I need to be more mindful. Nature just makes us do it because we're there. So we would create that together, and then we normally have tea. So that would be like refreshments or cold drinks or whatever. There you can hold something a little bit like a tea ceremony. Obviously, that not to take from the culture in Japan of tea ceremony, because that's a full kind of sacred process, but you can have reverence basically for what you're offering, and have blessings for what you're receiving. So really like slowing everything down again, and just making everything really mindful, even in providing your drinks or your refreshments and everything like that. And then we normally end with a poem and then a gratitude circle. So people talking about what they've received and what they're grateful for right now. And then we end the circle. So that's a rough kind of feel for what we do. I brought some other things down to show you. Sometimes I use cards as well. They're great. You can set up like a little circle of cards. Parents can pick up a card. That can be an opener into sharing at the beginning of the circle. So if people are feeling a little bit shy, or they want to have a portal into their feelings and their emotions, if they're feeling a bit blocked, picking a card can be really, really lovely thing to do. Another thing that I've been using in recent classes that I've been doing at festivals is also bringing in a little bit of sound healing. So these are called kocho chimes, and they are so beautiful to use. I don't know if you can hear that. So I've been inviting parents and babies to lean against the trees, close their eyes, and just been walking around with that. And lots of people said that they loved it. They loved it. Also, tuning forks are really easy to use as well for this. Really beautiful for bringing in different frequencies and energies. So, like when they're coming to a class, what you want your parents and carers to feel is that they are nurtured. They really, really nurtured. So they come into the class and they are held, they are supported, they are seen, they are heard, they are connected to themselves, to their babies, to the community, to you, to nature. Like all of those things, I cannot tell you how much they bring us into the joy of being human. What disconnects us is being in our heads, competition, comparison, isolation, which is what can happen with a lot of parents when they're looking at their phones all the time, and also they're consulting Dr. Google, like, what should I do with my baby when they're doing this? So when you go out into nature, you are able to understand more what your baby needs and how to respond to your baby's needs intuitively, because you're in your body and you've got a better connection to yourself. You can trust yourself. You know what to do. It's in your DNA, somewhere in there. So it's an access point for greater connection to who you are. So you can use things like that. What else have I got to play with tonight? You can also have, like, I give out these little bracelets which has got our little Love Creates Love logo on, just so that at the end of each class group session, so people know that they're connected. You can also do a beautiful, like, tying, like it's like a wrist tying ceremony, which is included in the course, which really cements the group together as well. But you know, it's limitless, really. What you can do is, the possibilities are just so vast, and that's why these classes are really powerful as well, because you are the creative force behind them. So what we give you on Tree Babies is we'll give you like a flow, a suggestion, and as you can see, it's all about connection, connected practices. So I've just given you a few ways that you can connect to yourself and to baby and to community, but you may have other ones that resonate better with you. And I want you to be the most authentically expressed teacher that you can be. And I'm here to support you and hold you and see you and, you know, encourage you and give you ideas. But ultimately, it is about free expression. And one of the things people say when they first start teaching is, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to fill this time with? Or like, what's going to happen if like nobody does this, or blah, blah. But the thing is that is part of it. It's like the getting real. So instead of the polite conversation, instead of the masks that we're all wearing when we're with each other, when you go out and you stand in a circle and that talking stick comes over, some people just burst into tears because they're just not used to actually anyone really giving them any attention or listening to them. Just that on its own can be really powerful as an experience, and extremely powerful to witness another human being in that vulnerability, because basically we all feel like that from time to time, that we're just invisible and we want to feel like we belong. So even something as simple as that can have the effect. You know, and some of the most powerful things in my life from all of the different experiences I've had is that less is more. You know, the less someone is facilitating, the less someone's pushing, the less someone's, you know, asking, oh, like, you know, do this, do that, the more valuable the experience is to me. So as a facilitator and a guide, it is about like just allowing yourself to be in the space of, I'm not quite sure exactly what's going to happen. And I'll tell you, if you're a teacher and you could do that, it will start to change your life, because instead of being maybe like a perfectionist or over prepared or overthinking, you're going to learn that you can actually do very simple things, and you don't have to keep performing or over providing or over giving. You don't have to keep saying, you know, oh, this term we're doing this, and then we're doing this, and then we're doing this. It's just co-creation, really. I've got a couple of questions that are coming up here. Roughly, how long is the session? So it's between like an hour and 90 minutes, depending. And someone else is asking me, do you sing? Yes, you can definitely sing. You can play musical instruments. You can bring, sorry, I think I've just done something. You can bring a drum. You can do anything that you desire. You know, like I've mainly taught at festivals recently, and you know, you can hang things from the trees. We have have lanterns that I bring. You might be able to see me behind me. This is the Blossom and Berry Circle of Love, which was created by one of our teachers, Gisette. And you can put that on the floor and have that as like the circle of love. And then inside of that, you can put offerings, depending on what time of year it is. Like I say, you can bring cards. Yeah, it's just a really lovely experience to create. We also do have like Tree Babies shelter as well. So I think with the Tree Babies offer that's coming out tomorrow, we have our spring shelter. So that's like a sunshade. So if it is like raining or it's too sunny, it's just a really easy canopy that you put up in the trees. So that does offer some shelter, because if you're in the UK when you're watching this, sometimes the weather is not great. So we have that you can use, and that's a gift if you enroll tomorrow. I've also had teachers in Australia who've been saying, what about all the snakes and the spiders? So we don't have to deal with that here in the UK, but you know, that is something you might have to consider as well. That's your safety in holding your class. Yeah, and so when you're learning how to do classes, it's normally, a 6-week course, bulk course over the terms, or you can have it running every week. You can have workshops, so you can do like a whole Tree Babies. You could stretch a Tree Babies class over a whole day and make all the activities longer. You can collaborate with anyone else, like do yoga outside or sound healing or anything that you desire. It's particularly lovely to include fathers or those who identify as fathers, because sometimes baby classes can be a little bit female heavy, or those who identify as female. So it's maybe not always as inviting, whereas being outside in nature and it just being a little bit more of a neutral environment, I suppose, it's really lovely to offer sessions for fathers or those who identify as fathers as well. As I said, I've taught at lots of festivals, so it's lovely to offer at festivals or events, fates. The sky's the limit really with what you can do with it. Some people have done like retreats, like 2-day retreats with parents and babies. Some people combine Tree Babies with Barefoot Beach Babies and take their clients to the sea, or run like a retreat by the sea. So they're just infinite possibilities. So what we do is we give you the baseline materials, ideas, knowledge, reading lists, meditations, all of the things that give you the confidence to begin. And then, like I say yesterday, Blossom and Berry is about full expression. So love for me is full expression. Love is tell the truth. Love is be you. So as I said before, it's not about being me, and it's not about being any other teacher in the community. It's about being your own kind of beautiful, and knowing that you are always connected to, if you like, the mother tree. So, in many ecosystems, you have the mother tree that is providing the nutrients under the ground through the mycelium network to all of the other trees in the forest. And then those trees are feeding back, oh, I need a little bit more of this, or I need a little bit more of that. And so Blossom and Berry is a bit like the mother tree. And we have actually something called the Mother Tree Foundation, which gives out a grant for good every month of £100 to our teachers to do real grassroots work with parents and babies and carers who might not be able to afford to access classes. So yeah, if you don't know about Mother Tree, that's definitely something having to have a look at. There's a great book on that and how trees talk to each other. So much good stuff. It's unbelievable, really. And what we're teaching all links to, like early childhood development, neuroscience, attachment theory, epigenetics, eco-psychology. Like, it's such a broad area to bring everything back to this moment. It's just lots of beautiful things. Like, we also do things like painting stones. That's a lovely activity to do. One of my teachers, Nina in Wales, she has the names of all the parents and babies. Like, each one has a stone, and then they put them all together in the circle. She has some beautiful things in her classes. So you can look at all the different ideas, and we have like a monthly like supervision for people to share ideas about what they want to do as well. And we're planting a Tree Babies forest at the moment in Anglesey, which will be open to the public for parents and carers and babies to come. So we're just planting trees for everyone who's joining us and building that up in Anglesey too. So lots of really lovely creative things going on. So I'm going to, it's actually, again, I can't believe this, the time is flying past. So I'm going to open it up to any questions that anyone might have on this, because I would love to know if anything's coming up for you right now. So any questions on what I've been talking about tonight, or just generally, how's everyone feeling about their level of confidence to be able to facilitate in this way? Has anyone got any really good ideas, or feeling like they want to add anything else? That's definitely there. would you focus on individual classes or a group of sessions? So for me, I would always book termly, because I find that drop-ins are really unreliable. And particularly when you're working with the weather in the UK and drop-ins, you could be there and then no one turn up. So I always have a booking, like a block booking of, say, 6 weeks. So that is what I would suggest on that. How do you advertise sessions? Most of our teachers do it on social media, on Facebook. As I mentioned yesterday, networking with other forest schools. I'm going to local schools and saying, can you put out some information, flyers about Tree Babies classes? Because obviously there's often parents coming to classes to schools with older children who might have babies as well. Like old school signs, working with the venue that you've decided to work with. So some people have been working with the Woodland Trust, like I've had garden centres, private gardens, different organisations that are supporting nature in the local area. So lots of different ways to advertise. Is a little bit like any business, to be honest. And I'm the world's leading parent and baby business coach. So I've trained over 2,000 teachers across the world, and I teach and mentor all of the parent and baby business, all the main parent and baby training schools in the UK. And so I've got so much information on the business side. The business side is as important, we'll touch on this tomorrow, as the knowledge, because you can't have the impact or create sustainable income if you don't run it as a business. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. Just because it might be seen as something that's loving or caring or compassionate and kind, it doesn't mean that you can't receive, because if you don't receive, then you can't give, and that's the law of the universe. So it's really important to get that right. We have, let me just do this question on Insta, because I've got Shake Along with Jem talking to me tonight. I think she was here yesterday. So when babies are older, they can show them what berries to pick up, etc. So if you've got like toddlers that are toddling around, they could join in and like help collect things for the Nature Mandala and be part of that. But we're not foragers. You've got to be really careful about what we are doing and what we're not doing. So we're not foragers. We're not able to, I wouldn't advise people to be like putting their hands into bushes and things, because they might get prickles on themselves, or there could be poisonous plants or plants that sting. So we only pick up things that are dropped on the floor that are visible to see, because that's the most safe option. And if you've got toddlers around, you just got to keep an eye on them as well. The babies and the children are definitely the responsibility of the parents, and we make that really clear on the form before they come. This is not a forest school. We're not babysitting people's children. We're not in charge of the children. We're holding the space. So it's really important to be clear with that. Okay, loads of ideas, but unsure on where to hold space at the moment. Would it be best to find a private landowner and ask to hold space on their land? It really depends. I mean, it's worth just reaching out to lots of different places to see whether it's possible. Like, we've had some incredible venues that people have found. Like, there's a lot of glamping sites now. There's a lot of like eco sites, looking at where people are holding like outside yoga classes, like anywhere that might be holding well-being type classes outside is good to look at. Private landowners is cool. Some people were like looking on a map and sort of going, oh, I wonder what that is, and then like literally driving up and trying to find out who owned the piece of land. So yeah, you just, to get permission is the most important thing. Some people do it in parks, like in my local woods. I just have to have permission from the council, and there's no charge for it, but you just have to tell them when you're going to be there. So yeah, there's a letter that we have, standard letter, that you can look at. Sophie says, obviously you need a DBS, but is there any qualifications you need to set up classes? So you don't actually need a DBS because you're not alone with the children. You can have one if you want, and Blossom and Berry can sponsor you through that process, but you don't actually need it because you're not left alone with the children. And the qualification is the Tree Babies qualification. That gives you everything you need, and then you're fully insured. So that's the qualification. If you want to go deep into this and you want to be part of Blossom and Berry, and you want to have the confidence of this is, you're part of a community and you've got the support and the guidance and the resources and everything like that, then you can join with the Tree Babies training, and that will give you absolutely everything you need. I'm level 2 Forest School qualified, so I was hoping to merge some activities and knowledge. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So if you've got another modality that you want to fuse with this, you can. So for example, some people have done outside baby massage and yoga classes, in like under a canopy and things like that. If you feel confident doing it and it's safe, that's the most important thing. It's safe and age appropriate. There's no reason why you can't. A Shake Along Gem saying, in Scotland, I think it's pretty free to go anywhere, luckily. Okay, that's cool. Rich says, my biggest worry is that people are so used to overstimulation in classes. Any tips on how to encourage this? Well, be the change. That's what I would say. That's the whole point, is that less is more. And if someone thinks that nature is not providing what they desire or need, that's their sovereign right to express that, and that class isn't right for them. They're not ready for that experience. That doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. It doesn't mean that you're an amazing teacher. It doesn't mean that there aren't people looking for it, but you're not going to please everybody. So you have to just let that go and stand in the conviction of what you know to be true, which is that, science and intuitive knowledge tells us that nature brings us home to ourselves, and that is an incredible gift to anyone at any stage in life, particularly I believe in parenting. So how do you approach baby carrying in the heat of summer? I'm worried about the risk of overheating them. So there's a module on baby wearing that covers all of the safety in there. Obviously, we don't advise on what slings to wear, and we don't put babies in slings for parents, but there is lots of safety precautions in about overheating, not covering babies' faces, and that's provided by a professional baby wearing consultant who is a guest teacher on the Tree Babies course. Sophie says, that's interesting. I'll have a look at the Tree Babies training. Marie says, do you have many people that get permission through local councils? Is this ever declined as far as you know? We have lots of forestry near me, but there are a lot of free running dogs, but there are toilets and parking. So it's absolutely dependent on each individual area. So I can't give out specific advice on whether that would be possible for any particular person on the call tonight. But all I can say is anyone who's applied and desired to teach Tree Babies in a space has found one. And so it's just a question of finding a space and approaching, and sometimes it's paid, sometimes it's not paid. It just completely depends. Like if there's someone, for example, who has got a coffee shop or something, like a garden centre, if you're bringing in a big group of people that are then going to sit and have tea and cake, they might be happy to give you that space, for free. Is there a number that you generally wouldn't go over, as in how many can attend? So I would say, like, my perfect number for teaching people is about eight. That's me personally. I think if it gets much bigger than that, it's quite hard to give people the proper time to speak in the circle. But it's up to you. It's up to you. You would have to adapt it. If you had a bigger class, you might not choose to have, put the stick going around and people talking. You might just have it a little bit more, activity based. So there's flexibility in that if you desire. Okay, any other questions coming up here tonight? How's everyone feeling? It's so easy to get started. Really great stuff. Fantastic. It is much easier than you think to get started. I mean, I think one of the things that is happening is that we're overcomplicating everything. Most people who will come to your class will have an idea of why they want to come into nature. So to be honest, the question about what to do if people don't feel they're getting enough value, most people who come to Tree Babies will probably be on that path. A lot of the guides and teachers that we have say the reason why they love to train as a Tree Babies teacher is because it's the exact thing they were looking for when they had a baby, but there was nothing available. And had this been available, this would have been completely their thing. So most people who do it are going to be looking for something like this, and they're probably going to be naturally turned off of doing like more of the overwhelming classes. So it's just an energetic match. Like the more you are in your truth as a teacher talking about and not diluting it, the more you're going to have a match with the person who wants to receive it, if you see what I mean. It's when you sort of go a little bit half and half that you can, it's not one thing or the other. But we do really support you in that process in terms of giving you, like we do give you lesson plans. And obviously each element that I've described today that we do in Tree Babies classes, there are tutorials from me that explains what all those things are outside in nature, so you can learn. But the most important thing is that it's embodied. So in Tree Babies, it's not an academic course as such, it's about experience over expectation. So you go out into nature and you actually do the practices yourself so that you can know how they feel in your body, you can understand them, and then you're being much more embodied in what you're doing. So that's the way that we kind of teach. There are some short answer questions, but they're not complicated. And it's more about how you feel rather than like passing it. Like it's not really, no, you can't fail it, because it's about how you feel in relation to nature. So any more questions from anyone? No, I mean, in the Tree Babies guide, so when you study with us, you get access to our online portal, you get lifetime access to everything, all the resources, everything in our Google Drive, our social media images, all the videos that you can use for your promotional materials, meditations, journal, like everything. And you also get this, which you can download, and so in there are things which show you like how to build up your classes, all the different elements of what you do. Let's see if I can find there's like some gentle yoga that you can do, so you can have like little yoga circles. So there's plenty of ideas. You're not going to run out of ideas. And there's also lots and lots of wonderful books on the reading list that will further inspire you as well. Like many of the things that we do lend from like Steiner kind of approach to early childhood development, and also it's going to go out of my mind now, a Waldorf style. So we, like you can bring in a lot of that type of like folk songs or seasonal songs. You can change whatever you're cooking and snacks you're giving or whatever in your class to really match the seasons as well. So Lisa is saying she's very excited. Mandy says, when does the course start? So you can enroll with us at any time, all year round. It's a self-paced course. You study it at home. I mark your work personally. There's a monthly supervision where you connect up with us, where we can share ideas, any challenges or difficulties you're having. So you can enjoy it anytime, anywhere you are in the world. And now basically and get going. That's why now is a beautiful time in the UK. It's spring equinox. It's a perfect time to be putting in these new seeds of ideas. Wonderful weather, like all the flowers are going to be coming up soon. It's going to be lighter evening, so it's a really beautiful time to do it now if you're based in the UK. I want to do a live, but I'm finding it hard to have a discussion without having notes in front of me. Is there a way to be on camera but read some notes at the same time? I think you should just put your camera on and then you just read from your notes. Are you thinking about doing a live Tree Babies class outside? Because I do think this is one that doesn't really translate to doing online, to be honest. I think it needs to be an in-person training, in-person classes, because that's the whole kind of point of it. It is experiential. So any other questions? Don't think there is. Okay. All right. So again, it's very lives to promote it, so people can learn how to get to know me. Well, in which case I would just go out into nature and just sit in nature and talk about like why it's important, and just be really super relaxed. Like, I think one of the important things about this is that, you know, it's just allowing yourself to learn and, you know, not be perfect, because nature's not perfect, and just holding the spaces and providing something different. Obviously you want to be, you can't just turn up and know nothing. But there's also a level of like perfectionism that we can get into, or overthinking, which Tree Babies really doesn't, you know, relate to that. Like I said, you know, the mantra is experience over expectation, being over doing, heart over head. Like that as a guide, that the embodiment of that is going to be really important for you as a teacher, because if you can hold that vibration, then everyone else in the group has full permission to be that too. Whereas if you're quite in your head still, that can come across as well. But of course, we're all work in progress, and when you start at the beginning, you start where you are, and it's all about learning. So we've all been there. Like I'm there every day with something new that I'm learning, so it's a process that continues. So okay, so let's just see how everyone's feeling after tonight's session. Put a word in the box to tell me how you are after listening to tonight, all about what's in the class. Have you been provided with enough inspiration and ideas to whet your appetite and make you feel excited, inspired, eager? For insurance, what category would come under? With professional indemnity, it's just children's classes. Inspired, content, excited, eager. You obviously know so much, it would be a hard act to follow. Not at all. I am a baby. I only learn as I go through, and you know, I always just go and have no expectation and just allow whatever to comes. So I have a natural connection with nature. I love being in nature, but I'm still learning a lot, or rather I'm still unlearning a lot of stuff that's been in my head about what makes me happy, what brings me peace, what brings me joy. So I am a newbie and a baby, so I'm the same as everybody else. Lisa says sign me up now. Love that, Lisa. Okay, that's cool. Roger says even fuller, stuffed, in fact, in a restful, mindful sort of way, of course. Good, excited. Okay, perfect. So I hope that you've my passion is contagious. Oh, thank you. I really desire, like, you have to understand that every teacher who comes into Blossom and Berry is a gift to me, because without the teachers, I can't create the impact. So that's why I love my teachers so much, because you're actually the ones who are activating all of the love that comes from like the source. So you are so important to me, and that's why, you know, I have no license fees, there's no controls. You're in the family for as long as you want. You can take the training as many times as you desire. We have socials, you know, we're going to have a little camping trip this year. There's going to be lots of different things, because we're all doing this together, and I can't do it on my own. So I really am grateful to everyone who's even on this training tonight, even though you're not Tree Babies teachers, because it shows that you care. So I really appreciate you. Sophie says, was last night's session recorded? Yes, it went out on replay earlier today. If you have any problems, you can email my assistant, Zita. She's on admin@blossomandberry.com, and she can help you. So yes. Lisa says, I love camping as I'm a scout leader too. Oh, amazing. I love camping too. So let's end tonight then. Tomorrow we're going to be moving on to what you would do to set yourself up as a business, as a teaching practice. Business is not a dirty word. Like entrepreneurship is a force for good in the world, and it's through entrepreneurship that you create transformation. And I think entrepreneurship is like artistry. You know, it's a creative force for good in the world. So we're going to be doing a little bit of mindset stuff on that tomorrow. I've been sharing with you a little bit about If you would like to join us, we have a very special Tree Babies offer that's coming out on Wednesday, where you can spread the payments to be a Tree Babies teacher with us over 18 months. Even though you can be up and running in 6 weeks' time, you've got the full 18 months to spread your investment, and that means you can start now. I think the payment is something like £43 a month over 18 months, so that just makes it really easy to get going. It's called Earn As You Learn, and so that's what I'll be having some details of that tomorrow. In the meantime, if you're eager to see more about our training, you can check out the website www.blossomandberry.com. If you go to the section that's called Tree Babies Guide, you will see Tree Babies Guide, Wild Wellbeing Practitioner. We had someone sign up to do that earlier today, which is Nature Natal, Barefoot Beach Babies and Tree Babies. And we also have our Wild Winter Nurture Rings as well, which is bringing tree babies inside, if that's more of your vibe. So yes, I will be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock for the final session. Don't forget to fill out your booklet if you desire to receive the certificate of attendance. Any questions, let me know. You can message me after this privately. You can message me on Instagram, or my email is gail@blossomandberry.com. Always open to ask questions. Really excited to share more about joining us tomorrow. And I'm sending you loads and loads of love for being here with me tonight. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. All right, I will catch you later. All right then, bye-bye.